What's up, everybody? My name is Joe Brown, and this is Heresy Financial. CoreLogic just released their rental data, and it shows the amount that rents have increased by in April of this year compared to April of 2020. And boy, is it a doozy. Rents have increased more during that 1 year period from April to April than they have in 15 years. And so in this video, we are going to look into why rents are increasing and what that means for you and how you can use it to your advantage. Ready? Let's dive in. So in April of this year, single family rents were up 5.3%, rising from a 2.4% increase April 2020. Now again, that's the largest increase in rents in 15 years. And the scary part is it probably isn't slowing down. And we can dive into the data a little more to break it apart to see what kinds of homes increased by more or less, because that's just an average number. By far the strongest category here is going to be single family detached homes. So that excludes things like townhomes. This category was up 7.9% just by itself. If you break it down by home price, you can see that the lower priced homes were up 3.9%, lower to middle priced were up 4.8%, higher middle priced up 5.1%, and then higher priced up 6.1%. Now, I want to point out here that this exact thing is something that I've been talking about on this channel for a long time. And it's not just me. Many people have been talking about this sort of thing starting to happen. Of course, not including, talking heads on CNBC. But even in 2019, everybody was looking at home prices and saying, hey, I'm going to wait for a crash. I'm going to wait for everything to fall apart. I've got a ton of cash. I'm just going to wait until everything falls in price and then buy at lower prices. And I'm just going to rent for now and wait for everything to crash. But the problem is that's not what happens when the response is monetary expansion. When the solution to fix any economic issue is to just print money and try and pay for things with monetary expansion, you don't get asset price crashes. In fact, that's the very thing that the central planners are trying to prevent, is a crash in asset prices. And you can look at countless examples of high inflation and hyperinflation in countries all around the world for hundreds of years, and when money gets created out of thin air and monetary expansion happens, the real money, the big money, starts buying real assets. This is not something you need a crystal ball to be able to predict. All you have to do is read history and see when they start messing with the money, the rich people start buying real assets. And so yes, 2019, home prices were high. 2020, home prices were higher. 2021, home prices are crazy. Guess what? Real money is still pouring in. Big money is still buying real assets. As the purchasing power of the dollar declines, the price of anything priced in those dollars will increase. And especially so in real assets that are made out of physical stuff formed into something that's actually useful, like, a shelter you can live in. And the classic response to that was, hey, if the entire economy collapses, we have a big crash, nobody's gonna be buying houses at these increased levels, and especially nobody's gonna be able to afford rent. Well, look at what's happening. When house prices increase, that's because there's too much demand compared to the supply. Yes, that demand is caused by a massive flood of cash into the system, but essentially that's still demand. More people are buying than are selling, driving up prices. But guess what? People still need somewhere to live. And for everybody who is now priced out of being able to purchase a home, they still need somewhere to live. And the supply-demand issues are literally the total number of houses compared to the number of people that want somewhere to live. And so as housing prices increase, rents will follow. And guess what? They are following. And guess what? Let's say they pull the plug. Let's say they stop printing money. Let's say they allow a deflationary death spiral to happen. Guess what? Tons of people lose their jobs, people lose their assets, but they still need somewhere to live. And so the big money will still be buying houses and will still be charging rent for people to live in their houses. This is a classic example of using inflation to get rich. You use leverage to buy something that produces income. And as inflation happens, as that new money works its way throughout the system, the income increases. That's just what happens. Even wages increase. when you have the government increasing minimum wages, or when you have the government pricing out small employers by just paying people to stay at home. And so the only way for employers to get people to come back to work is to pay them significantly more than what they could get paid to not work. And again, this is funded by monetary expansion. And so as asset prices rise, the incomes from those assets rise as well, and wages rise so people can afford those increased expenses. And so it's almost a no-brainer to buy an asset with a fixed interest mortgage. That means you lock in your interest rate, so your payment is a specific number of dollars, and then that asset produces income for you that increases with inflation, meaning that over time the inflation crushes the value of that debt. Because if rents go from $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 over the course of 10, 20, 30 years, but your mortgage is locked in at $1,000, that means the real cost of paying off that debt gets easier and easier and easier. It gets cheaper over time. Now, is this system good for society? Absolutely not. Is this system good for people? Most people? Absolutely not. This makes life drastically harder, and it makes it harder and harder and harder for people to move their way up the financial ladder and increase their wealth over time. But if you understand how the system works, we can't change the system, but we can use it to our advantage. If you know that they're intentionally destroying the value of the currency in order to drive prices higher, in order to increase nominal revenues, in order to lighten the total debt burden, and you understand that is the goal, you can make choices where you are aligned with that and that those things benefit you as well. And I understand the pain. There are plenty of people who maybe even permanently are priced out of being able to afford to buy a home now. There are still some homes around the country, like you can find on roofstock.com, that are under $100,000 that cash flow well. But for the most part, especially if you're looking for a home that you actually want to live in, many people, and especially many younger people, are simply being priced out of the market. But that doesn't mean you can't take advantage of it. You can still participate, even somewhat. You don't like what Blackstone is doing? Buy their fund. Become an owner. Benefit from what they're doing. Invitation Homes owns like 80,000 homes across America, all single family homes. They know what they're doing. They know how to buy homes that produce good cash flow, and they make money. So buy some shares. There are plenty of REITs, plenty of ETFs, plenty of mutual funds that will give you exposure to being able to benefit from the system, so that instead of being left in the dust and kicked to the curb, you can at least catch the tail end of the wave. And like I always say, none of this is investment advice. I'm just some guy on the internet, so don't take my word for it. But unless we see some drastic changes in monetary and fiscal policy, and a huge step back in the financial intervention from these ivory tower elites that think that they know better and have spent decades confiscating wealth, and increasingly so by causing prices of everything to ramp up over time. And unless we see some big changes from that, I don't see any way that what we're seeing in prices, and especially rents and assets, do anything but continue. If you enjoyed the video, it'd mean the world to me if you'd subscribe and pass the video along to somebody that you think would enjoy it as well. As always, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.